The Media Center for Art Education and Technology, a service of the Monterey County Office of Education, along with the Herald Live, presents PrepNation. Now to your hosts, Dave Kellogg and John Devine.
Welcome to PrepNation, Playoff Edition. I'm Dave Kellogg alongside John Devine. High school playoff madness starts this Friday as the CCS playoffs get underway. We've got 6 games in 4 divisions on Friday night, but let's start with the Saturday game, which is PG playing Sacred Heart Prep. What about this PG team? It's been a while since they've been in the playoffs.
Yeah, first time under head coach Chris Morgan, and a little bit of emotion this year for this program. I mean, I was talking to a couple of players Tuesday I should say, and I spoke with Coach Morgan about this, and that this is a team that's actually gotten really close as the season has progressed. And I think Luke Lowell told me that they didn't have that last year. And I think you can see it on the field, not only with the kids, but with the student body. In the game against King City, when they won that game, the student body rushed on the field. This is just a regular season game, but it was a big deal for them because they essentially clinched a playoff spot for the first time in 4 years. So
there's a lot more excitement around PG football than there has been for a little while.
Yes, there is. And you know, we talked about this last week. I thought last year Pacific Grove hoped they could win big games. This year they came in believing they could win big games, and you saw that in the way they played against King City. Even in the loss to Carmel last week, that was 38-30 at one point. That was a good game. And now they go and play Sacred Heart Prep, who's 9-1. A very confident group going into this game. A lot of energy to hit Tuesday at practice.
Well, let's hear what head coach Chris Morgan has to say about the resurgence of PG football.
Well, you know, Sacred Heart Prep is, you know, another playoff perennial team. You know, they've been in the playoffs the last couple of years and have done a great job. You know, I had a chance to see him play Carmel. I think it was 2 years ago, and you know, they're a great team. The coach has them playing very good. They come from a pretty tough league. You look at the league that they come out of, and there's 2 or 3 teams in that league that have made their way through the playoffs pretty far as well. So, you know, we definitely have our hands full this week. We have to go on the road, go to their place, and play on a Saturday afternoon again, which is kind of different for us. But, you know, our guys are playing tough football lately, and I think our boys are going to be up for the challenge. Like I said, we've had 2 tough games back-to-back, and our guys have been really responding to the challenges thrown before them.
Now, you mentioned that game 2 years ago against Carmel, Chris. They were actually down 21 points in the fourth quarter and came back and won that game with a 28-point fourth quarter. It was really impressive outing. Hey, Chris, Sacred Heart Prep, they've recorded 6 shutouts this year on defense, which is amazing. Is it a fast and athletic defense, or is it just fundamentally sound?
A little bit of both. I mean, we've seen their tape obviously this year, and their defense is fundamentally sound. They fly around. They're a very physical defense, and I think it really starts with their front 4 guys. They've got 2 D tackles that are very well coached, 2 D ends that are very disciplined, and then the back players just really run to the ball and are very physical. You know, looking at the Menlo game that they just played, their 2 safeties are flying up and making plays all over the field.
Now, you've improved in the win column in each of the 4 years you've been here in the playoffs this year. Obviously, you'd like to have gone a little sooner. But that being said, I mean, these are your seniors now. This is your team that built this foundation 4 years ago.
Yeah, and what a way for these seniors to go out, you know. And before our last game, you know, I met with the seniors and personally told them thank you for what they've done. You know, they came in with me, and new program, new expectations, you know, just a new way of doing things maybe. And there was always that, I guess you could say, feeling that PG was supposed to win always. And you know, the first couple of years we struggled, but these seniors stayed with it, and they knew if they stayed the course and did what we asked, they'd be successful in the end. So it's really a tribute to them and their hard work and staying within the program itself.
And put PG back on the map as well. Hey, after you beat King City, a lot of emotion in that game. Student body ran out on the field. Obviously clinched a playoff spot point-wise. Some emotion for you too, wasn't there? Oh,
that was just, I mean, it's on the campus as a whole. I think there's just a good feeling on campus, and it's again a tribute to the kids we have here, the players on our team, the kids on the campus. We're just excited about school, excited about participating in things, and you know, culminating on a Friday night with a big win like that. The kids were excited, and both the players themselves and the student body rushing onto the field. It was, you know, to clinch a winning season and possibly a playoff berth. Everybody was excited, and we love the support. We asked for the support during the week. We said, hey, come on out. We need you as a student body to come out and support us. And we're just, the unification of the student body and the athletes this year is great.
Yeah, it was obvious in that game, and a good way to close your final regular season home game as well.
Home senior night at home. I mean, it was a great way to go out.
Hey, you lost arguably your best back earlier this year to an injury in Jake Speed, but then Kevin Teskey steps in and rushes for an over 1,000 yards. Was that a surprise?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we've been wanting to get Kevin out for the team, and he's one of the better athletes on our campus. So we said, here's a guy that will help us. But we've seen what he's done when he was a sophomore, and then he puts a lot of time in the weight room, and he's just an explosive athlete. And he was a guy that said, if we have this guy, he could help turn this team around. And he just had a great year. And again, that's a tribute to him for him coming out and doing what the coaches have asked of him, and really leading by example as a senior to come out and just run hard and work hard in practice every day and do what we ask him. So we're glad he came out. I mean, you could see the results have definitely helped us throughout the year.
Clearly a nice addition. Hey, before we get out of here, Sacred Heart, what do they do so well offensively? Because I took a look at their numbers. They're very similar to yours.
Very balanced on offense. They run the fly offense, and they throw in a little veer here and there. They don't have just one great player that's carrying the load for them, but they distribute the ball very well. So you have to be very disciplined on defense. If you try and take one of their running backs away, they got 2 or 3 other guys that have 600, 700 yards right in that range that are capable of making big plays as well. So we have to be very disciplined and, again, match their physicality. We have to come and play physical football on defense.
After a 4-year absence, Pacific Grove's back in the playoffs. Thanks, Chris.
Go Breakers.
We've heard what Morgan has to say. John, what's your impression of Sacred Heart Prep?
Well, their defense, Dave, I mean, they've given up just 65 points all year in the season. 28 of those came last week in a win over Menlo, who's ranked very high in Division 4 as well. This team has 6 shutouts this year. I mean, there aren't too many teams in the CSS that recorded 6 shutouts, and they shared the title with Menlo and Terra Nova's in the Open Division playoffs.
How about Sacred Heart Prep offensively?
Well, they did put 70 up against Los Altos, so they are potentially explosive. They're similar to Pacific Grove, though. They do run a spread offense a little bit, but I mean, in terms, if you look at their stats, their quarterback has about as many yards as Pacific Grove's quarterback. They run the ball a little more better. But again, it's that defense. It's just been unbelievable this year for them.
Have they played a game of this level before, though?
2 years ago against Carmel in the CCS Division 4 championship games, in which they rallied from a 21-point fourth quarter deficit to beat the Padres. Stunned them. I mean, beat them 28 points in the fourth quarter.
So this is really a playoff-tested team.
It is. Well, I mean, the program is. I mean, some of these kids probably weren't there 2 years ago. Right. Bottom line, this team is 9-1. I mean, they're ranked number 2 for a reason, and next to Seaside, I think probably the next best team in that division.
What are the keys to this game? What can PG do to beat Sacred Heart Prep?
Well, they could run a couple of flea flicker plays. Okay. Now, they did that against King City, and it worked. They did the hook and lateral, and it worked really well. And in fact, I asked Jordan Bourne about that, and he says, you know what, we never tried it until practice. It worked well in practice, and it worked well in the game. So, I mean, that is an option. But, I think Pacific has got to be able to run the ball a little bit. Kevin Teskey's rushed over 1,000 yards this year. Nice little surprise. He didn't play last year. And he's given them the running game a nice lift. And Luke Lowell, the quarterback, is head and shoulders better than what he was this time last year. It's their first time back in the playoffs in 3 years. I don't know what to expect. I think it's just a more confident team that's going on or loose.
Okay. And let's hear what Luke Lowell, the quarterback, does have to say about Sacred Heart Prep.
All right, Luke, you've seen tape of Sacred Heart Prep. They've posted 6 shutouts this year. What do they do so well on defense?
Well, defense, they just fly around the ball. They're just a bunch of guys. No one's too big, but they're all fast, and they all have this attitude that I'm just 11 men to the ball.
Really, 9-1 is this year as well. You came up last year as a sophomore, played a game with a broken arm. Obviously, that cut short your season, but the experience of just being up there last year, what did it do for you this year as a junior?
Well, it helped a lot. It's getting that relations with the system, with Bowler, the play caller. It's helped a lot, helped me progress my game.
Sure. I felt last year that Pacific Grove hoped they could win big games. This year, I think you guys came in believing you could win big games. Was there a game this year that kind of changed the direction of this program?
Yeah, that would be definitely the Christopher game. Last year we got badly beaten, both on JV and on varsity. This year we came in, we had that, we wouldn't say we were thinking we were gonna lose, but we weren't like for sure.
Right.
Like, this is gonna be an easy game. We came in with the attitude like this is gonna be a challenge for us. We gotta go meet that challenge, and we did. We won, came out on top.
It was a shootout too, wasn't it? 47-45, something like that?
Yeah, it was like 40-35.
Okay, yeah. Hey, what did you think 2 weeks ago when the student body came rushing off on the field after that win over King City? Obviously, it was an emotional game, and essentially it clinched a playoff spot, but I hadn't seen that in 6 years here.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of emotions flying. It was just a great feeling. So hard to describe.
Yeah, a great way to end the regular season at home anyway. Hey, before we get here, Luke, you're a junior. You'll be back here next year. Expectations get a little higher next year?
Oh, much higher. We're looking to win league, beat Carmel. Same goals we came in with this year, but it's just that much more important next year.
But playoffs first on Saturday.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Playoffs first, of course.
Thanks, Luke.
All right, thank you.
Well, I think it's good for the school, of course. I was not here the last time they were in the playoffs, and my sophomore year I came here and I played on varsity, and it was a rough year. And then last year was even rougher with the quarterbacks going out, which made it kind of hard. But this year, the team's looking good. You know, we have a lot of team chemistry. The team's a lot closer than it has been in the past few years. And I think that all kind of adds up to us being in the playoffs. It's just that we love being out here with each other playing, and I mean, it's just a good feel, and you know, we like being out here. So
I think that clearly showed in that King City game with all the emotion after the game with that big win like that. Jordan, you've had a big year catching the ball this year. Did you see this coming before the year started? Because this team usually likes to run the ball a lot.
I did see this coming. Like I said, in my junior year, we had a rough time because both of our quarterbacks broke their arms. Luke broke his wrist and Kyle broke his hand. So it was really rough for us to pass the ball, and we had planned on passing it last year, but that kind of came to an end early. But I did see this coming. I work hard, and I'm pretty good at receiver, so I saw this coming.
Now, you developed some chemistry with Luke this year throwing the ball. Is that something that you worked on over the summer, or does that just kind of happen throughout the course of the season?
It did kind of spring over the summer. Over the summer we did a couple passing tournaments, and we did good in the passing tournaments, and Luke hit me for a lot of good passes in the early summer, but during the year it was a work in progress. There was a couple times that he'd overthrow me, and then practice we'd have to work on it, and there'd be times where just me and him would go to the side and we'd work on a play passing. So it was a work in progress, but I mean, we do more than just play football with each other. We play basketball with each other, and we hang out a lot. So just the chemistry itself is kind of came over the summer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Obviously, you guys played basketball together last year. That helps in terms of the cohesiveness. You guys probably know each other really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, any more hook and laterals in the book? And that play worked so well 2 weeks ago. Did it work like that in practice?
It did, actually. We actually destroyed the defense in practice with that. I don't know. I don't know if there's any more hook and ladders. We'll see what the coaches try to bring up. We put a little bit of tricks in there, so we'll see what happens.
Now, how do you get some points against this Sacred Heart defense? They've recorded 6 shutouts this year. I think they've given up something like 48 points all year. I mean, it might be the best defense you've played all year.
Yeah. Well, we just gotta work hard, and we've been watching film on them, so we see the weak spots that they do have. Not many, but they do have weak spots. And even for me, they have weak spots that I can look for in the corners, who are pretty hard hitting corners. So we just got to keep working throughout the week to kind of key in on what they do and what we can do to them.
Now, Jordan, we talked a lot about you being a receiver, obviously one of the better ones in the MTL and maybe in the county, but you're also a pretty good defensive back. You got 4 or 5 picks this year. Do you have a preference? What side of the ball you like to be on?
I like to be on the single man side more.
But no, offense or defense?
Oh, well, defense.
Okay.
I like offense. Offense is fun. I do my thing on offense, but last year I didn't get to play any defense, and I kind of wanted to this year, kind of go out and play defense. And when I played safety, I was pretty good at safety. I got a lot of tackles, but as soon as they moved me to corner, like the game they moved me to corner, I got 2 picks in the game, and then the next game I got a pick, and then last game against Carmel I got a pick. So I mean, defense is fun when you do stuff like that. You know, get the crowd going, and you know, I think defense is a little more fun because you get to hit people. So.
Well, that pick against Stevenson won the game for you guys, so that was huge. Hey, before we get out of here, you as a senior, you guys have kind of laid that foundation now. This team is going to the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. I mean, as seniors, you guys feel like you've started something here for them to build on now for the future?
I do think we have. We do have a large number of juniors and a couple sophomores on this team who look up to the seniors from what they do every day. And the seniors, all of us, we work hard, we work as leaders, we try to show by example, and that has shown in the young players on this team. And I feel like what we have done will help them next year when they're seniors and the sophomores when they're juniors to lead other and to show, you know, how you're supposed to come out here and work hard every day.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jordan.
Also rolling through the Division 4 on Friday night, we have a rematch from Game 2 of the regular season, and that's Soquel against Carmel. Soquel was a big winner in the regular season. Now they come into the playoffs. Carmel is the higher seed. How do you see this game going, John?
It will be different than the first meeting. I don't believe Soquel is 28 points better than Carmel, which was a result in a 48-20 win back in Week 2 at Carmel. You know, Carmel had 6 sophomores starting on defense, had a sophomore quarterback who actually got hurt in that game and had to come out. And he's obviously fine now by his numbers over the last 7 weeks. But I think Soquel, you look at these points, it's all based on points.
Right.
Carmel, you know, Carmel's in the MTL, it's a B league, and Soquel is in the Santa Cruz Coast Athletic League, and that's a C league, and I don't understand that at all, because the Santa Cruz League to me is as strong as the MTL, if not stronger. That being said, both teams are different than what they were, you know, 8 weeks ago.
Now, Soquel has an outstanding running game, though, right?
Fabiano Hill, one of the top running backs in the area, not just you know, our area, but maybe in the section, close to 1,400 rushing yards this year. He tormented the Padres in the first meeting. Just, you know, ran around him, ran through him. He's a strong, good-looking kid. They've got to find a way to contain him.
Carmel defensively, though, you expect them to be better because they're so young.
Yes.
To start with, and they've matured as the season.
Well, you know, I look at Carmel now. We talked about 6 sophomores. Yeah. You know, in my mind, they're not sophomores anymore. They've been playing for 10 weeks now, so they're seasoned vets. You know, but that being said, though, Carmel has given up points this year. I mean, they gave up 38 to Pacific Grove last week. They gave up 45 to King City. Gave up 48 to Soquel. This is probably, for them to win this game, it probably will have to be a shootout. Okay, so it's a matter of outscoring the other guys in a high-scoring game. And you might mention, this is at Pacific Grove. Oh, right. Which, you know, is a fast track, being an all-weather surface. So I actually think that probably favors Carmel a little bit over Soquel. Okay. Also in Division 4, we've got number 1 Seaside, 10-0. They're going to be hosting Cappuccino, which comes down the peninsula from San Bruno, and Cappuccino is 6-4. What do you know about Cap? Well, we talked about it earlier, the very talented running back on that team, Justin Ewing, who's rushed for almost 2,800 yards this year, a 494-yard single-game effort back against, I can't remember the school, but 494 yards in one game. That's unbelievable. That being said, this team's only 6-4. So, I mean, how good are they? Right. I guess Ewing is 50 yards away from breaking the CCS record, which was set by Onan Reyes of Burlingame. So, he's pretty close to 3,000 for the season. Could you see that happening against the Seaside defense? Only if it's in garbage time. I mean, he probably has not seen a defense like Seaside's defense. We saw what they did last week against Monterey to shut down Ambrose Choney and Jimmy Hill. I mean, that's what they've been doing all year. You know, we talked about Fabiano Hill earlier this year for Soquel. They shut him down back in Week 3. I mean, this is just one of the best defenses I've seen in this county, probably since the Mason Foster era at Seaside. Looking at this from another direction, what can Seaside not afford to do against Cappuccino? Well, you know, I always worry about these rivalry games the week before. And we talked about this last week, how much emotion goes into the Monterey Seaside games. So, to me, they're a little drained when they come out the following week in that first round of the playoffs game. So it's kind of like a trap game, even though they're a higher seed. You know, this running back, you know, if he's got almost 3,000 yards, he's doing something this year. You know, Cappuccino plays in a decent league. They're not a bad team. You know, they can't come out flat, and they've got to avoid the turnovers. They've committed 2 or 3 turnovers in each of the last 3 or 4 games, and that's kind of slowed them down offensively a little bit. Okay. That'll do it for Division 4. I just want to point out that if
Carmel wins and PG wins, then it's a rematch in the semifinals next week.
You know, Pacific Grove talked about that when we talked to them on Tuesday. I think both teams have a rough road first. They're going to have to worry about these first round opponents first.
Yeah. All right, also in the first round, let's go up to Division III in Monterey. We talked about last week's loss to Seaside in the rivalry game. Now they take on Soledad at Friday night at Monterey Peninsula College. Does Soledad have the horses to stay with Monterey? I
don't think so, but I do want to point out one thing. Soledad coaches, Art and Frankie Berlanga, they were at Seaside a couple years ago as assistants, so they know this Monterey offense. I'm sure they've developed a plan and how to at least try to slow it down. That being said, I've only seen one team slow it down this year, and that was Seaside. I mean, it's an efficient offense. We talked about how it's as old as dirt. They've been running it for 100 years, but it works. And I just think they're going to eventually wear down Soledad in this game.
Any emotional letdown from Monterey coming off that Seaside loss?
You know, it didn't seem like it after the game on Saturday. They seemed like they were okay. It wasn't a league game. It didn't cost them anything. They still got the #1 seed in Division III. My only concern for Monterey would be looking ahead. You know, don't look ahead. I mean, I know Soledad is a team that you know, had to win their last game to sneak into the playoffs, and the record 6-4 doesn't look, you know, fancy or anything. But they're a good program. The Berlanga brothers have done a nice job in turning that whole program around over the last 2 years, and you can't sleep on Soledad.
Well, Monterey shouldn't look ahead, but I'm going to look ahead. If they win on Friday night, they'll face the winner of the Aptos-Saratoga game. Two teams I don't know a whole lot about, except that Aptos comes out of Santa Cruz.
And won the Santa Cruz Coast Athletic League title and beat Al Sal earlier this year.
Oh, okay.
So that would be my bet.
Let's roll up to Division I, where #6 San Benito is going to visit Alisal on Friday night. Alisal finished the season 8-2 and second in their division. Where are they at?
And a school record this year, Dave, with 8 wins, a single season school record, and they're going to be hosting their first ever playoff game in the history of that program, which goes back to the late 60s. So very impressive job Chanel Smith has done this year. History, though, is not on Alisal's side. In the previous 7 meetings with San Benito, they've lost 6 of them. You know, both these teams were a member of the TCAL before they split up last year with the Equity League. Now, Alisal has played San Benito very tough over the last few years. In fact, beat them 3 years ago, 14-6. I don't see a lot of offense in this game. I see 2 defensive battles. You know, San Benito's not what they have been in the past. We take a look at the 172 points they produced during that 3-game winning streak, but it came against Christopher Gilroy and Alvarez, who were combined 4-26. So, and they didn't show a whole lot last week in the mud against Palma. So it's a defensive game. It could be a 7-6 game.
San Benito's not in Alisal's head?
No, not at all. I don't, you know, Alisal, again, I've said this for years, I think Chanel Smith gets more out of those kids than any other coach in the county. You know, they're not afraid of anybody, and that's why they can win this game.
Okay, also in Division I, we've got Salinas hosting Fremont of Sunnyvale. What have you heard about Fremont?
That they scored 90 points in 1 game.
Right. I wondered if that was a simple
That's a CCS record. They beat Harker that day, who's not a great team, but it should be noted, too, they gave up 58 points in that game. So I'm not sure what was going on.
Talk about shootouts. Yeah. There you go.
Would not have wanted to cover that one. But they do score a lot of points. They've got a running back that's rushed for over 1,400 yards this year. 8-2, they're not a bad program out of Sunnyvale. But Salinas is on a roll right now. They're playing good football. You know, Coach Goodbuddy talks about this every year. I want to be playing my best football in November, and that's exactly what they're doing. I think they've got a great road, you know, with their bracket all the way maybe to the finals this year.
Now, if they win, they face the winner of the Hollister-Alisal game. And they've beaten Hollister earlier this year. And then the top seed is Milpitas, 7-3, coming out of the other side of the bracket.
Now, Milpitas is a talented squad, and that's who I anticipate, you know, eventually being on the other side of that finals in Division I. Again, Salinas is going to have to take care of business first. One thing that did catch my eye about Fremont, they beat Homestead this year, 2 weeks after Homestead beat Salinas. So, I mean, this is not just a cakewalk for Salinas. I believe Salinas is going to win this game. I believe they're going to get all the way to the finals this year, but one step at a time.
Okay, that brings us to the Open Division, and St. Ignatius of San Francisco is taking a long bus ride down here to the Salinas Fair, Rodeo Grounds to take on Palma.
The longest road trip among any CCS school.
You can't get much longer than that. I guess you could go down to King City from San Francisco. Is that bus ride going to affect the Wildcats?
I don't think so. I mean, they play in the West Catholic Athletic League, which is now a super league,
Right.
I think every team in that league got in the playoffs, including 3 and 7 Reardon.
Wow.
But the open division, you take a look at the open division, you say, all right, where's the weak link? And I don't see one. I mean, Terra Nova got pushed in it because they won their division, but they're still a good team. I mean, Bellarmine, I mean, I can go on and on. Mitty, Sarah, I mean, these are all good teams. I think surviving that first round is the key. If Palma can get past that first round, then it's wide open the final 2 weeks.
How do you feel that Palma has, I mean, we know that Palma hit the rough spot early in the season, lost 2 in a row. Did they seem to get better each week after that?
Yeah, and it all coincided with quarterback Mitch Kidd stepping into the lineup in the second half in that Monterey game when they were down 12-0. They haven't lost since. They've won 7 straight games. Their defense is what impressed me last week in beating San Benito. I mean, they just shut them down for 3 quarters. The quarterback for Palma, he's efficient, and Brandon Oliveras has taken over. He's over 1,000 yards rushing right now. It took him a while to kind of get his feet wet, going from the JV level to the varsity level, but they knew they had something in him. This is a kid that rushed for 2,000 yards and 32 touchdowns as a sophomore on the JV level in 10 games. So, I mean, I don't care what level, that's a lot of yards in 10 games. When I look at Palma, though, I just... they've battled a lot of adversity this year. I mean, a death in the Palma family in terms of a kid losing his father, the injuries, losing 2 starters for the season. So they've kind of been battle tested emotionally and physically, and I just think nothing fears them right now.
What does Palma need to do to set the tempo of this game?
Score first. I mean, I think they got to get out and build some momentum right away. And the St. Ignatius, we didn't say this, Palma's won 7 in a row, but St. Ignatius won 5 in a row. So they're playing good football right now, too. And I think that West Catholic Athletic League, you hear that and you go, uh-oh. But Palma, maybe they're not saying uh-oh. I mean, they're a team in the past that has beaten WCL teams for open division titles. Right.
They've been there before. So if Palma wins, then they would wind up with the winner of the Oak Grove Archbishop Mitty game. Oak Grove is undefeated. Mitty, of course, another team out of the WCAL. It's packed with WCAL teams.
Who St. Ignatius beat last week.
Okay.
So
that's right. Hence the seed. Okay.
Yeah.
Turning to college football, John, we've got a bowl game this week, and we've got a bowl game participant that we didn't expect. MPC upset Hartnell in the last weekend of the season, 28-3. So that forced things into a 3-way tie for the title, and after the convolutions of a tiebreaker, MPC came out on top, Hartnell staying home. Tell us about the bowl game that MPC is in.
Well, first of all, I didn't think it was an upset.
Okay.
Because last year, the roles were reversed. MPC came in that game with Hartnell undefeated, and Hartnell beat them to get a share of the title, and ultimately both of them went to the bowl game. I mean, this is a rivalry game, so when they play each other, it's pretty evenly balanced, although MPC did dominate that game against Hartnell to get the share of that title. And the only difference is, as you mentioned, Hartnell got left out this year, and MPC is playing in the Living Breath Foundation Bowl at MPC, 1 o'clock on Saturday. Now, they've had a strong finish. They closed the year 4-1, and just playing better football right now. There's not one player that I can sit there and say, watch this kid, watch that kid. I mean, they're playing as a group. I think one of the kids, it was Cole Houston, told one of our reporters after the game, we don't care about stats, we just care about wins, and that's kind of how they performed over the last 5 weeks.
So they play Contra Costa, which comes down from San Pablo, which is another long bus ride. Everything's a long bus ride down here.
And the Bay Conference champions as well.
Okay, Bay Conference champions. When was the last time we hosted a bowl? That was
never at MPC. Usually this bowl game's held at Cabrillo College, but I guess there was a deal made when this Living Breath Foundation was established that if MPC won the conference title, they would host a game.
Okay. So
that's what they're doing right now. And the thing about Contra Costa, they played Hartnell this year, and Hartnell beat them 22-19 in overtime. So there's some familiarities there for MPC to kind of judge film. Hey Dave, before we get out of here, we should congratulate 3 cross-country teams this year that won section titles. Salinas girls won their first ever Division I CCS title. Seaside won a Division IV title, and Santa Catalina won a Division V title for the first time in school history. Lizzie Tardu went out and won the race individually. So outstanding performances. They'll be spending Thanksgiving weekend in Fresno.
Fresno for the state championship.
Nothing better.
That does it for this week's Prep Nation. Join us next week as we analyze the first round of the CCS football playoffs and also look ahead to the semifinals coming up.
At least 3 teams will still be alive.